Excellent. And welcome, everybody. This is our longevity checkup number 4. And we're here with the warrior himself for building a warrior immune system. We are delighted tonight to make the topic not as only about what's the bad foods to eat, but what are the good foods. Wood ashes to wine. So let's talk about the foods that we can eat and what happens to our immune system when we actually eat good foods. We know the positive effects of eating well can affect all the processes in our body, including cell regeneration, inflammation, digestion, and sleep. It is no surprise that even after as little as 28 days of eating good foods, that you can expect your body to start being better and feel a whole lot better too. So tonight, I'm excited. This is our second round with the fantastic Grant McGuinness, especially since the last time we had the chance of discovering and discussing how amazing he is, his life journey, and how he came into longevity. So I thought he'd do a little bit of a snapshot on that again tonight because this is recorded. But as well is Grant, you have completed, as of today, as a certified holistic health coach. So we are so proud of you. So congratulations. I know everybody on the phone here that has actually taken the course. Actually, everybody, if you want to unmute and do a big congratulations to Grant, because we know this is a very vital step.
Well done,
in our
Grant.
Amazing. Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's life-changing. I'm so proud of you. You said you were going to knock it out of the park. You said
I
you
think
would,
it took
and
me
you
two and a
did.
half, something like 2.5 weeks or something. But
Well,
wow. Lockdown helped. It helped when you locked up.
I did it in.
It's a 3-month course, Grant. So
It's
well
a 3-month
done.
course.
I did it in 2.5 days.
Look at us go.
Yeah.
Well, we're super proud of you, Grant. So again, without further ado, thank you for joining us. And please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about, what brought you into longevity, and tell us about this course, and then we'll continue.
Okay. I'm Grant McGuinness, a retired soldier. I spent 24 years in the regular army, spent six times overseas, and I was what you consider super fit for all my life, most of my life, in the top 1% easily, fitness-wise. Everything was going fine, and then at 56 years of age, I got diagnosed with stage 3 throat cancer. I'm a non-smoker, very fit, ate well, and I thought it was a death sentence, and it was for most people. I went through the full bit. I went through radiotherapy, chemotherapy. I couldn't talk, eat, drink. I had a food pegs shoved into my stomach. I had to feed myself through a tube for 5 months. Couldn't work for 2 years. But there's always that's the bad side, and the bad side was pretty bad. And most of the blokes I went through with are dead now, or not doing too well. The good side was it made me question the system that had got me there. Because when I asked the oncologist, why did I get throat cancer? Her answers were nonsensical, absolutely made no sense at all. 2 years later, when I finally heard a little bloke called Dr. Wallach talk about the Dead Doctors Don't Lie video, recorded message, I thought, holy moly. And my life changed from that moment. I listened to it about 5 times. I bought most of his books, read most of them, studied and studied, finally got onto longevity products and changed my diet a little bit, and I'm still here. And I know it's kind of weird, but I'm 65 years old and I can do 80 push-ups without breathing in a row, bang. Which you ask a fit 25-year-old to do 80 push-ups without breathing, and they'll think you're mad. But I can do that. I do have other issues, but that gives you I've got a bit of determination, and I was a Aikido instructor for 25 years, a martial arts instructor. So I was what you consider fit, yeah. And that's my background.
Wow. Well, we're so delighted that you came on board. And so when you said you come onto Longevity, since then you have created a Facebook group and you have like well over 5,000 members. And
5,200, yeah.
I was going to say, since I've joined in on it, I watch that you get like at least 10 to 20 people joining in almost every week, if not more. So
Correct, yeah.
I think it's a fantastic platform. You've got so much to share. And so I know today we were going to talk about the good foods. But before we do, being in longevity for the last 7-8 years, and the chance where you and I finally had the opportunity to be working together for the last, I don't know, what, couple of months now, Grant?
It's only 2 months, yeah. Only 2 months, yeah.
And you decided to take the certified holistic health coaching course. Tell us a little bit about that to some of the people that might not know what it is and what it's done for you and your business.
It was actually Kylie who was the last one to talk me around. And it was a fantastic course. I've actually known about it for years. I've seen it there. I was actually a member of the Facebook group, and I had access to the course for years because I got it in before they closed the door. But I just ignored it. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just paid no attention to it. I must have thought I knew too much, or I don't know.
Sometimes it just takes that extra person like myself, and that's why just what I've done with you, encouraging you and telling you what it's done for me, the power of that. And
Yeah, well,
the power everybody has on this call to not only do it themselves, but to encourage others to do it.
look, I think it goes on with joining a mastermind group. When we work by ourselves, and I've been by myself for the whole 8 years, I've actually never physically met a longevity person in my whole career. Then you only got the power of one. When you can join with a mastermind group, and you're part of that, then it's 1 and 1 equals 3, if you like, not 2, 3. And the maths is quite clear on that. So it's what I can do mixed with what others can do, and it has a huge snowballing effect. Even since starting the course, I've only been there for 3 weeks, and I've used the health assessment chart 3 times, and I've got 3 customers out of it. Like, wow! And I find that amazing because even though I've got a large group, I don't have very many customers, and all of a sudden things are changing. So it's been wonderful.
Well, it's amazing the different systems and support.
Correct.
And, having a call to action, the difference it makes. So follow-up is the key, and you're going to just see now your business completely explode because you've got a great platform, you've got the customer base, now you got a system, and you definitely, have all of our support to make that difference. So
yeah, there's a few cogs in my system that were missing, and they've been put in there. So it's really quite good. It's fascinating. I'm looking forward to doing the other stuff.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing is everybody, when we, it's usually sometimes it just takes 1 or 2 things to tweak that will make a huge amount of difference.
Yeah.
Whether it's in your health as well as your wealth in setting that.
Yeah.
So tell us tonight's little topic. Oh, I got one more person joining in. Let me just get her in first. Yeah. And then we just, here we go. There she is. She was trying to get on. Excellent. So we'll just welcome Julia in here as here we go. Now I gotta just slow my computer down, exit full screen. All right. So we decided tonight, we wanted to talk about some of the good foods and some of the modern mistakes of nutrition. Yep. Tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, I'd like to bring up the number 1 good food. And if people can unmute themselves for a couple of minutes, can they tell me what they think the number 1 good food is? Can anyone unmute themselves?
First of all, do they know the answer? What do they think the number 1 good?
Spinach?
What's that?
Minerals and spinach.
No.
Eggs?
Well, according to Dr. Wallach, eggs are the number 1 good food, yes. But I've got another one. And I think Dr. Wallach won't argue with me. He'll have a bit of a giggle about it, but he won't argue with me. Can anyone see me? Because I can't see anybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. All right. I'd like to bring out the number 1 good food. You can see my face. The number one good food. Do you know what this is?
A
Wood.
stick.
Charcoal.
Wood.
It's wood.
Wood ash.
Okay. Now, that number one good food was responsible for making man man. Does anyone know why? Without that number one good food, we'd still be little monkeys in trees. That was the catalyst that made man man. Does anyone know why?
Because it made fire.
Partly
You get
right.
out of it.
Partly right. Okay,
Because-
all right.
Of the wood ash.
Wood ash. So
And the
in
minerals.
here, a tree can pull up the minerals from the ground just as well as a carrot, correct?
Yeah.
Whatever minerals in the ground, a carrot can pull up and a tree can pull up. Now, we can eat the carrot, but we can't eat the wood directly anyway, correct? Okay. Now, does anyone know where minerals are made? I'll ask that. Does anyone know where minerals are made?
I'm guessing minerals are made in the trees because they're coming up from the ground, from the roots
No.
in the ground. No?
No. You're
Okay.
about 400 billion years out of whack.
I was just imagining that the mineral mine over in
All right.
over
Okay.
in there, Utah.
I'll go back. 430 billion years ago, 420 billion years ago, there was a big bang. Boom. And hydrogen, helium, lithium elements came out and we had various suns. Hydrogen sun being a big bomb. They blew up, they formed suns, blew up, and then we went lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, silicon, further down the periodic table. 2 or 3 iterations of that, and we end up with 103 different minerals or different elements out there. All of those blow up and little bits of meteors fly through space. And some of them ended up on the Earth, forming the Earth, and that's where we got our minerals. So minerals, if you like to think of minerals are stardust. Stardust. This is not taught in schools. I even learned geology at university, and I actually understood it, but it wasn't impressed on me very much. So the stardust. So minerals are stardust. Minerals being made in stars are not affected. But do you think when they've suffered by 100,000 degrees temperature, do you think a forest fire or a normal cooking fire is going to worry a mineral? No, it's just like a warm blanket. They can sit in a fire for 100,000 years without worrying about it too much. So the minerals get condensed into the wood ash. Are you still there, Dracy? I can just see.
Yeah,
one
I'm
person.
here. I'm
Oh,
ready.
okay. Yep. So the minerals get condensed into the wood ash. Now the 1.2 million years ago, our ancestors, they started living with fire. All animals, when a tree burns, all animals like kangaroos and stuff will eat the wood ash because wood ash has a salty taste. All animals do that, not just humans. Man likes salt. Man has a craving for salt, as we know. So it wasn't the hunting, wasn't the killing and the cooking of meat, if you like, that made man strong. It was the dusting of the meat as it's being cooked in the fire in the wood ash, that was the catalyst, because in the wood ash are the concentrated minerals. So man started supplementing with minerals 1.2 million years ago when we started living with fire on a daily basis. And it was the wood ash that made man man. If it wasn't for the wood ash, we'd still be little monkeys about 3 foot tall, living in trees. And it's come down. And when we became farmers, then it was the wood ash that we would recycle into our vegetable garden. And that again, we got the wood ash into our diet. So we've been living off this one for the last 1.2 million years, until about 100 and so years ago when electricity was developed and we no longer cook with fires. So that's why wood ash is the number one food. Now, if Dr. Wallach was here, he'd have a bit of a chuckle, but he wouldn't argue with me because that's where I learned it from. And I understood all of that, but I hadn't joined the dots until I read Dr. Wallach. And I went, there it goes. And it's not taught in school. If I was to say that at school, at high school or at university, as a doctorate, if you like, I would fail. They would fail me because that is incorrect. It's not doctrine. But that is how it is. It's not the cooking of the meat, it's the dusting of the meat in the soot or the wood ash that made man man. So that's why that is our number one food. So how do you like those apples?
Yeah. Well, we definitely know that, again, that's what, as Dr. Wallach has discovered, over 900 different diseases are due to the lack of minerals and vitamin deficiency. So getting to that. So let's move on. And then if that's number one, what is another one that is one of the good foods that you were wanting to share with everybody?
All right, I'll go to the second one. A little bit different from Dr. Wallach, but not too bad. This one here is does anyone know what that is? My bone broth. So when we eat meat, I'm a meat eater, and we all know that 99% of the minerals are stored in the bones and the teeth, and 1% in the meat. We all know that. Yet we throw away the bones and eat the meat, and then wonder why we have osteoporosis and all sorts of mineral deficiency diseases in this part of the world. All our great-grandparents and beyond, for the last, since man's been able to boil water about 5,000 or 6,000 years, all societies where they can boil water, they've made a bone broth. And we've had bone broth. And even half the world today use bone broth. Today, it's not very popular because
it's a growing trend again. But
it's a growing trend, but it wasn't for 100 years.
Yeah.
And it's only recently grown in Western society. In the Asians, they've been doing it non-stop. And in old European places, they've been doing it non-stop. So it's our stupidity in throwing away the most nutritious part of a steak, the actual bone. That's my second one.
Now that you're on a roll, why don't you go with another one?
All right, the next one is eggs. That's Dr. Wallach again. And the eggs are quite simple. I mean, they get demonized because of cholesterol, but there's no, look, with a minimum of cholesterol in the body, cholesterol, the brain is made up of cholesterol. They call it myelin, M-Y-L, myelin. It's a type of cholesterol. When we don't have enough cholesterol in the system, do you know what disease features? Particularly in the old people. Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease didn't exist 100 years ago. It's only since we've started this low cholesterol, low salt diet and put in statin drugs, the cholesterol's become such a big money spinner. It's the most profitable disease out there, Alzheimer's, and it comes from not eating enough cholesterol. Best form of cholesterol is eggs, and it's the best form of protein is eggs. An egg takes 26 days to germinate, and in there's everything for a cell to go from a cell to a chick. It's got it all there. It's even got vitamin D in it. So
how many eggs would you recommend?
I have, Dr. Wallach recommends 6. I have 4 a day. I've spoken about my breakfast before. Mine's scrambled eggs, about at least 2 cups of mixed beans. My breakfast is so big that I have a big serving bowl in the middle, and it's overflowing. I have to get a different. It's enough to feed a family. It's huge. It will keep me going all day. So my breakfast is huge. Yeah. So I have ginger and garlic and turmeric and a lot of the other good foods. I put them all into my breakfast. But you don't have them fried because that makes them into a bad food, and you don't hard boil your eggs because that makes them into then the cholesterol is no longer being able to properly use. So eggs are okay, but you've got to have them soft boiled or poached or and a cooking. So that's my third one, if you will. Then the next one is it's the same with Dr. Wallach, really. I'll follow him. Oh, next one is butter. Because butter is, a cow wanders around the paddock, picks up the whatever nutrients are all over the paddocks, and then it gets concentrated. It goes into the milk, but it gets concentrated in the butter. There are some societies out there that if they didn't have butter, they would be a sickly bunch of people. But they convert their milk into butter, and they end up being quite strong and healthy because that's where they get their mineral supply from.
And
so butter is not margarine. Don't confuse margarine and butter. Sorry,
yeah,
Carl.
but so just sorry to interrupt. I didn't mean to do that. But I was just want to be clear on the butter because of what the cows actually eat.
Correct, because the cows pick up various minerals from all over the paddock, and
the high fat content as well. Is that important?
Fat is good. Fat is good. Only fat people have low fat diets. Skinny people and healthy people have high fat diets. This myth about having low fat diets is a myth. It's quite a profitable myth for some people, but it's the back to front. If you want to be trim, have a high fat diet. If you want to be fat, have a low fat diet.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we have after butter?
Okay, the next one really is salt, S-A-L-T. So back in the days when we were after the wood ash, we had that because we needed salt. Now, the salt is primary. It's got a number of uses. It helps you keep a diet. It regulates blood pressure. It helps regulate the heartbeat. It helps muscles to work. It regulates the pH of the stomach. But if you want to think of it, the simplest way to look at it is when we eat something, it goes in, we chew it, goes down the throat and into the stomach. In the stomach, it has to get broken down. It gets broken down by stomach acid. We all know we have stomach acid. What is stomach acid? Stomach acid is hydrochloric acid, HCl. What is salt? Sodium chloride, NaCl. What is water? H2O. We get the hydrogen from the water, the Cl, the chlorine from the salt, and we end up with hydrochloric acid for our stomach. Ideally, our stomach should have a pH of about 1.2, 1.4. And if we have a strong pH, then we can break down food properly. If we have some of the bad foods and we don't have enough salt, then our pH creeps up to 2 or 3 or sometimes even 4. And then you end up with all sorts of digestion problems. We're not breaking down food properly. And we're dying of all sorts of osteoporosis and all sorts of things at a much earlier rate. So, and for me personally, salt's a big one because it doesn't cost anything. And for 30 years, I thought salt was a bad food. And I didn't put it in my dinner. And that was the one thing, really, that made my stomach acid weak. I ended up with stomach cramps at various times. I was an athlete, if you like. I sweated a lot. So that was one of the contributing factors for me getting cancer, more than anything else. Lack of salt, lack of minerals, lack of salt, but lack of the other one was one was I was super fit, 2 was I didn't have salt, 3 is I ate a lot of bread, and 4 is I didn't supplement at all, didn't understand it, didn't join the dots, and I paid for it at 56, which is the average age for an athlete to die, by the way. Most athletes don't live past 56. That's the average age. So I was right on average for an athlete. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Now, I know I read in your notes, you have a fantastic PDF, and those on this call here, we will definitely share it within that group that we have if you had registered to be on this call. But it's fantastic. But you put in there, our gut makes up 70% of our actual immune system.
Correct.
And,
yes, it
and
does.
so can you tell us what is some signs of a good gut health? What would you say is signs of good gut health?
Well, if you feel good after eating, that's a good sign. If you have 3 bowel movements a day, that's a very good sign. I don't manage that, but some people do. Dr. Wallach certainly does. He talks about it all the time. And if you experience gas or bloating or cramps, so I used to get stomach cramps or pain after eating, then you're certainly having some gut issues. If I eat bread, I get a bit of pain after eating because I've discovered late in life that I'm gluten intolerant. I never knew. And if you no, and if you have, the big thing is if you have GERD, acid reflux, or indigestion, then your stomach acid's not strong. That's all. They're all from having weak stomach acid, not strong stomach acid. I know on TV they like to neutralize the stomach, but they get it back to front. They get it back. We get lied to a lot by the system, a lot. And we get lied to a lot by the system for someone else's profit. So I had one client, Rose. She was, at night, she was walking the floor with stomach cramps. She couldn't sleep, and she'd had that for 5 years. She went and saw heaps of doctors over it. I finally spoke to her, and she's not one of my longevity clients. I'm a dog groomer, so she was my dog client. And I said, add salt to your dinner. Add salt to taste. So just added salt. The stomach cramps went away. She no longer walks the floor, and she sleeps perfectly. And it was as simple as that. Well, another one I had, and he had stomach cramps, and he had to have time off work. He was a construction worker, and there was 2 days a week he couldn't work because his stomach was so bad. Now I talked to his wife, and she was mixing carbonated soda with his for his meals. He loved it. And I told her to stop feeding him that, and then he's back at work full time. That happens as quickly as that. And all they had to do was give up the carbonated soda.
It's amazing. Again, just tweaking one or two things.
Yeah, it was just
actually
simple,
makes.
little stuff.
So those are some good signs of good gut health. So overall then, there's I read your list, and there's 40 different signs of poor gut health, 40 different signs. Do you want to just give us a few examples of some common issues and illnesses people have, and it's probably just a sign of their gut health?
Oh, yeah, sure. I can go down if you like. Acne is a good one. ADHD, anxiety, arthritis, asthma, autoimmune disease is often related to gut health. Belching, bloating, blood sugar imbalances, cancer, chronic coughing, chronic fatigue syndrome, constipation, congestion, depression, diarrhea, difficulty concentrating, dizziness, fatigue, fibromyalgia, frequent illness, headaches, heartburn, hormone imbalance, infertility, insomnia, intestinal spasms, irregular periods, joint pain, white blood cell count out of whack, mood swings, nausea, vomiting, passing gas, seasonal allergies, skin rashes, eczema, hives, rosacea, the red cheeks, stomach pain, stuffy nose, thyroid imbalance, weight gain, inability to gain weight. The list goes on.
Crazy.
Yeah. And they're all, but the system makes a mint of money out of that stuff.
But here's let's simplify it for everybody that's on this call, and that actually is listening to this video recording. If that's the majority of people's issues, doesn't it make what our job is so easy? If the majority of the reason why people are coming to us is gut issues, then we know what we need to do with them. And, so what are those steps now that you take for your clients, your customers? Now that you're a certified holistic health coach. So tell us, what are the steps now? You got somebody comes to you with some of these issues.
First of all, they have to give up the 12 bad foods. And the main one is the gluten, the wheat, barley, rye, and oats. And if you can get past that one, the others aren't too bad, but they're the bad ones. And then you have to, but in order to give something up, you have to take something first. So you have to get onto the good foods first, and then you can stop eating the bad foods. So if you there's 12 bad foods, we were fairly well aware of what they are.
That's fine.
And you can ask, they're on lists and stuff. But if you can take up eating rice, beans, as in I have mixed beans, so I have, as in dried beans. I didn't bring up a bag of beans, but the soup mixed beans. So there's about 20 different beans in there, and they're the beans I have all the time. Because if you have a variety of beans, then you get a variety. You get most of the amino acids if you have a variety. But if you only have one type of bean, like kidney beans or something, you only get, say, half of the amino acids. But if you have at least 3 or 4 different types, then you tend to get the lot. So I always eat mixed beans all the time. So rice, in this day of COVID, the people who are dying from COVID are the gluten eaters. The rice eaters aren't dying. There's in China, with a population of 1.3 billion people, they've only lost like a few thousand from COVID. America's lost 600,000 and China's lost 3,000. Like, the Chinese don't eat rice, and the ones that die are the rice-eating people. Even in India.
Crazy.
India, where there's big things about people dying in the streets. It's only the southern Indians are dying. The northern ones aren't. The northern Indians eat rice. They don't, and the southern Indians eat wheat, barley, rye, and oats. So they have gluten. Northern ones don't. The northern ones don't die from it. So Dr. Wallach's 100% right. All you have to do is stop eating gluten. And his biggest suggestion is to get a traditional Japanese cookbook and use it, and don't cook with anything else. And he's right. He's 100% right. Because I'll explain that, because when we have gluten, the villi in the stomach, in the intestine, get clogged up with all that sticky stuff. Glue clogs up the villi. The minerals can't get absorbed. We end up with osteoporosis, which is weak bones. When we have weak bones, we have weak bone marrow. Now, the red and white blood cells are produced in the bone marrow. So if we have weak bones, we have weak bone marrow, and we have weak red and white blood cells. The red and white blood cells are used to make antibodies to fight infection and viruses. So that's why the Westerners die from COVID and the others don't. It's quite simple.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I'm so glad that we as an army are trying to educate and empower people to, take some steps. They have the power, we have the control.
Yes.
Before we move on, there's something here that I discovered in your PDF for the good foods, the phytates. Can you explain what the phytates are? Because clearly, we talk about having the beans and the nuts and the spinach and the tofu, all these good things, but can you explain what that means, what that's about?
The phytates bind with minerals. A lot more when it's kale or spinach. So if you have, someone was asking me, and they fed their sick husband kale, like a spinach smoothie, but the spinach binds with the minerals, whatever minerals in the food, and it forms a coating on the minerals, and the body can't absorb them properly. And so you by feeding them a so-called healthy meal, you're actually killing them, because they're not able to absorb the minerals. You can have kale, but have it 3 hours away from the time you have your minerals, because it's a binding agent, and that causes a problem. So people get confused over that.
So that is a bit confusing for me. So can you tell me, as if I'm in kindergarten and it's the first time I've learned what phytates are, and what foods? Can you do that one for me a little bit more clear? And I'm speaking for myself. I don't know about anybody else on the call, but this was a new one to me. So
yeah, all right. I'll just go through my little list.
Because what it says that it's actually an acid that's most commonly found in beans and seeds and nuts.
Yeah, I'll just go on to that.
And so we're telling people we want them to eat these fabulous foods.
I'll just read from my notes if you like. Phytates is the most commonly found in beans, seeds, and some nuts. It will bind to minerals in your food and supplements, causing them not to be absorbed in your body. To avoid this, make sure take your minerals 2 or 3 hours before or after you consume the phytates. And the phytates are linseed, sesame seeds, almonds, Brazil nuts, coconuts, hazelnuts, peanuts, walnuts, corn, brown rice, polished rice, chickpeas, humus, lentils, soybeans, tofu, spinach. So they're the main ones, and they bind to it, making it difficult to absorb minerals.
Yeah. Okay. So let me then be clear then in action. So really, when you say taking our minerals, like our longevity minerals or BTT or liquid minerals, so what I'm hearing is we shouldn't have them just before we have our meals. Correct.
You shouldn't really. What I do is that's my minerals and my tangy tangerine and osteo and cal toddy mix, and I have some minerals in there as well. So I have it in a bottle, and I carry my bottle around with me all the time. So I'm just having a little bit continuously throughout the day, and that's the best way to do it, really. You shouldn't really, unless you know what you're doing as far as food goes, have your minerals and your food at the same time.
Okay.
You can.
Well, that's interesting, but that's something new for me and having to work out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before we finish this off, I wanted to go through quickly some of the food myths towards the middle. If you could share maybe a couple of the food myths out there.
Right. The blaming salt for what sugar did, or the food myths. I'll go down onto those. Sorry.
That's fine. You can do that one if you want.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that. The modern mistakes of nutrition. We blame salt for what sugar did. We're blaming fat for what refined carbs did. We're blaming cholesterol for what inflammation did. We're blaming eggs for what toast did. And we're blaming bacon for what cereal did. And we blame genetics for what is an epigenetic disease.
There you go.
There's a big difference between the word genetics and epigenetics. Do you want me to go into that one?
You know what? Let's finish off with what's the difference between genetics and epigenetics. I hear that all the time with family and friends now. You know, they're doing testing to see if it's genetics, and clearly in my head I know that's not true, but I never know what to say or how to say it. So what would you say to that?
Okay. Genetics give you the color of your eye, the color of your skin, the color of your hair, and a few other traits. That's what genetics do. And we have genetics is like a code. It's like a blueprint. If you want to look at it as an architect who draws up plans for a house. So genetics is the plan for the house. And our plan has been written by an infinite intelligence. You can call it who you like, I don't mind, but it's an infinite intelligence. There's nothing wrong with our blueprint. That's our DNA. That's what we call DNA. So genetics is the DNA. Now, if our plan is perfect, but our house still falls down, and we have the absolute best master builder out there, and he has the best tools. So we have the best plan, the best master builder, and the best tools, but the house still falls down. It can only be one thing. It's the raw materials that the house is made of. So if you want to look at epigenetics, epigenetics is the effect of the environment on the expression of the gene. So the gene is the blueprint for our house, which is our body, and epigenetics is the effect of the poor materials that our house is made out of.
Amazing.
Does that make sense?
Yep, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
yeah.
So most diseases that I can think of are all epigenetic diseases. I've heard there's no real, there are genetic diseases, but they're very rare, very rare.
So what's really genetic is the same foods that they eat or the environment that they live in, the habits that they have.
Have you ever heard of Down syndrome?
Yes. Down
syndrome is supposed to be a genetic disease. It's not a genetic disease at all. It's a deficiency of a certain mineral, zinc, in particular. And if the woman and the man don't have enough zinc at the time of fertilization, then the body parts can't be built at the right time. And so we end up with, I think it might be selenium, but zinc and selenium. So we end up with a Down syndrome baby. And it can be reversed if the woman has a diet high in zinc and all the nutrients, but you have to get in early within the first 3 months. Yeah, and then you can reverse it. Other than that, the Down syndrome baby's born.
Excellent.
That's a common one. And 1 in 700 kids are Down syndrome, just because the oncologist didn't understand that you have to start nutrifying the body 6 months before the time of conception. 6 months before. So
it's amazing when you get this information and you now in the knowing of it, and trying to share and educate people to believe it is a really hard one. And so that's why it's just so important we come together like we do, everybody on this call, the commitment we have, you know, we learn certain new things every time we hear from yourself, Dr. Wallach, everyone on the call that shares a little bit more makes a difference. I have something I want to share with everybody just before we finish off. Grant, was there anything else you wanted to share before we finish? And of course, when I finish this little PowerPoint off to make this duplicatable, you certainly can help add to it.
Just one last thing. If women and men supplemented properly the way that Dr. Wallach talks about 6 months prior to conception, and they avoided the good foods and the bad foods, the IVS program that we have around the world would disappear. There wouldn't be a need for it. Birth defects would disappear. That's as simple as that. Because that's what's done in the animal world, where they breed animals for profit, caged animals for profit. That's what they've done. They've done it for chickens and elephants and beans and cows, and it can be done for people.
Amazing.
And that's my last message. If you can get that one, through the head, that's fine. But they'll say, "Oh, you can over supplement with minerals."
Well, I've taken all of your notes that you have, and I've just kind of put it into a small little presentation here to make this duplicatable for anybody who definitely wants to share, you know, what you know, and be able to create their own presentation, do their own show, or even just share it. So again, this comes down to what I've taken from your notes, and those who think that they have no time for healthy eating will sooner or later know that they will have to find time for illness. And again, this goes down to, like you said, our gut makes up for 70% of our immune system. So no one can outrun or out supplement their fork. And fitness is 80% nutrition and 20% exercise. So as this is what Grant shared a little bit earlier, the modern mistakes of nutrition. Again, blaming salt for what sugar did, blaming fat for what refined carbs did, blaming cholesterol for what inflammation did, blaming eggs for what toast did, blaming bacon for what cereal did, and blaming genetics for what epigenetics did. So going to the gut health being so important. So this is what Grant was sharing, what makes you feel like you got a good gut health is feeling good after you've eaten, and the bowel movements, and no needs for digestive medication. And as he shared, I won't go into detail here, but here are over 40 different signs of poor gut health. So you can just see this list. Grant's already shared it all, but you can see how the list goes on and on and on. Crazy. And guaranteed those of you on this call know people that have these different issues. So food choice is a habit. And so your body follows the mind. Think about what will support your immune system. So the first step is taking up the new habits of eating more foods that will actually support your immune system. So as Grant was shared tonight, these are the different, I'm going to go through 28 of them, but the PDF that Grant has, we'll post it on our page. It's the one he's going to give to you guys. He's got like over 80 different PDFs of all those different illnesses and issues. Please talk to Grant if you want any more. But I know he's going to be so generous to share this one with us. So you can actually go through each one of these. So again, the different foods. So these were the ones that he shared tonight. Then the fish and the chicken, and obviously the meats, the vegetables, and the fruits and nuts. Again, but nut butters, rice, and you guys can see this here, all the good foods. I liked finishing off with the red wine and the dark chocolate. Again, high in the antioxidants, and getting back to the filtered water. So these were all the good foods. And again, step 2 is getting out of the old habits of the bad stuff that you put in. So again, going down to these are the foods that are actually feeding our disease and actually killing us. So these are Dr. Wallach's 12 bad foods. On this PDF, he's got some great links to explaining what each of those bad foods and what they actually do to you, and what makes them not good. And of course, the third step is the Dr. Wallach way. We know a longevity life is the best life. And again, it comes down to the 90 essential nutrients. And this is where, Grant, you were sharing the minerals, the importance of these minerals. You do an excellent job on this PDF explaining the minerals, explaining the vitamins, the 12 amino acids, and the 2 fatty acids. Was there anything you wanted to say and share in what I've shared so far, Grant?
Only that most people, particularly when they start, have digestive issues. And probably a good one to start with is the Healthy Body Digestion Pack,
Which
rather
exactly
than just the plain
is the gut health
Body
pack right here.
Oh, you've got it here. Okay.
Yeah. So this is what I've added to it, is which gives the extra enzymes and the extra flora in there. And so besides that Healthy Body Gut Pack and the 7 best doctors that are out there, being fresh air, sunshine, rest, good diet, water, exercise, and Doc's message, we know that all you need to do is ask yourself exactly this: how much life do you have now? Are you happy with it? And what do you want your life to actually look like? And so in saying that, there are 7 things you can do right now to get started. And this is exactly what, now that Grant has completed the holistic health coaching course, you now can share the health evaluation with someone so you can address the issue that they have. And then it's just working through what they need to eliminate, what foods they need to eat, the exercise that they're able to do to get themselves moving, and focusing on a sleep routine, and then how we can support them. And so these are the 7 steps to getting started right now, because today is your day. And in finishing off, I just wanted to share with everybody that you get a fresh start to start eating right, training hard, living very healthy, and living a life that makes you super proud to be a part of. And one of the wonderful things about our longevity community that we have is all of us have the same mission. We all have the message to share about Doc Wallach and the lives that we can change in here. So Grant, you are just such an asset to our team. We're so proud of you for being a part of it, as well as completing the holistic coaching course. Even though you're a wealth of knowledge, you now have a system, and we can't wait to see you next step and reaching 1 star and all the other stars to go with it.
Well, it's wonderful being part of the team. I've been by myself for 8 years. So being part of the team makes all the difference. It makes a huge difference.
Excellent.
So
well, we love having you on team. And now I know there's people on this call. Please unmute yourself. Please share something you got out of the call, or something really that you really enjoyed about it, or any question you might have for Grant before we finish.
Great job. Well done. I just want to start it off with that. Look, Grant, I love you.
Thanks,
you know
Kylie.
that. Yeah, I'm so glad that we met, a month or so back, and
Yeah.
you and I have journeyed together already. I think you did an amazing job, and I love that. The one thing I love about you is you're so incredibly thorough. I know, and you're an army man. My dad was an army man. My grandpa was an army man. My great grandpa was an army man. So I get where you're coming from, and I love that you are just, the way that you're so passionate about it, and that you bring it in a way that is just totally you. So I just really wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you, Kylie.
Wonderful, Kylie. That's so great. And what's good is you can take this PowerPoint and take Grant's PDF, and you have the notes, for everything to say, because everything that Grant has shared here tonight is in the notes that we're going to share with you, that you can back it up with the PDF, so you look professional and you got the confidence to share. So really great. Good job, Kylie. Thank you. Anyone else wanted to share what they got out of the call, or what they appreciate the most about Grant?
Oh, I like listening to Grant talk, because you're so knowledgeable about the things that, along with longevity, but the health and fitness side of it, because that's what you do. It's interesting to listen to you speak.
Oh, thank you.
That's
Excellent. And the key now is to take tonight and take 1 or 2 things that you really got out of it. And it's all about a process of learning a little bit more each time. And the more you learn, the more you're going to earn, which is really awesome. So,
You know what I love?
yes.
I love the props that Grant has. I just love that. I'm thinking, oh my goodness.
Oh, I didn't bring out the salt, because
Yeah,
here.
right.
But the salt we have.
You need these the
Himalayan pink salt from
Himalayan.
Longevity.
That's
In
right.
here, do you know
Soda
why
salt.
we have iodized salt? Do you know why we have iodized salt?
Isn't that bad for you now?
No, that's what they want you to believe.
That's what's right.
Iodized, the reason that they brought out iodized salt was back in 1926, they discovered that people who didn't have enough iodine in the system had all sorts of thyroid problems. And so they started dying from thyroid problems. So in the 50s, they made it law in most parts of the world to have iodized salt on the table. And then people stopped dying of thyroid problems. Now, because they kind of forgot about that sort of technology, you can buy uniodized salt. Now people are dying of thyroid problems, and it's good for business. So
Well,
those
my
people
dad-
who don't want to die from thyroid problems, get themselves iodized salt. Those people who are quite happy to die from thyroid problems, just get normal table salt.
My dad was a dairy farmer, generations of dairy farmers we were, and he swore by salt. His salt had to have iodine in it.
He was correct.
He swore by it, and I've never forgotten that. See?
He was correct.
Exactly.
Because it was common knowledge back in the 50s. That was common
and
knowledge.
It helped him stop getting cramps and things as well.
Yes, he was
And
right.
people seem to forget that.
He was right.
If you start getting cramps, you're lacking in salt.
But we
Yeah,
always
correct.
had iodized salt growing up.
That's right, we did, but it's not
Yeah, we
anymore.
got-
But then
You
they
don't have
told
to
us
get it
that
anymore.
salt
It's
was
not
not
law
good for
anymore.
us.
My dad used to come home from football and have salt tablets,
Yes,
little tiny tablets that were just salt after
yeah, good.
after football.
Because in those days they understood, but they've forgotten
Mm.
now about the need for salt. Because salt is a bad thing, according to the powers that be.
Yes, we see, and being out on a dairy farm, you had to have your salt blocks for the cows.
Yeah, salt licks for the cows.
Oh, like,
The cows aren't dying of stomach cramps
No.
and getting all sorts of stuff. And how do you tell a cow that you only allowed three licks of the salt block? Like,
Oh, look, you knew when they were lacking. They're smart. They knew when they were lacking salt, and they would just run for that
correct.
when they were really down.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if they weren't lacking it, they didn't go anywhere near it.
correct. correct.
can I just add something just
And they
really
love to
quickly?
act inside the road after a bushfire.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Bronnie, but if I can add something just really quickly. We have rabbits, okay,
Yep.
and we move them around our backyard. We have a big fence, and we move it around, and they're basically my lawnmower. So the one thing I love watching about them is, and it's sort of what Bronnie was just saying, is that animals know when they're lacking something, so they always gravitate to a certain part of the lawn or a broadleaf weed or something like that. And it's very interesting to watch them do that. And I think that animalistic nature is something that we have too, because our bodies lack. And so we're just talking about salt, and Bronnie was saying, they know, and Grant, you were saying they know, you won't just take 3 licks of a salt lick and the cow will have more, but they know. And I just think that once you get into this program and you start understanding and you start missing something, you start learning your body too. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Watching the rabbits and going,
We've been conditioned to ignore our body's desire for salt because
Well,
of media.
I'm going to add to that, you guys, is not only doing a checkup from the neck up of what our bodies need. So this is where we talk about 100% in health and in wealth. And so if we take the same philosophy about, what is it that we need to be 100% better physically, but also in our longevity business in wealth, is what are the things that we're doing daily? What are our daily disciplines and what are our weekly disciplines to have a healthy business? And so it's the same kind of philosophy in there, and assessing what is a successful business to us. And so I challenge everybody here tonight to go home or to go to bed and review and reflect what you got out of the day, what you got out of this topic here tonight, and rehearse in your mind, what does your what is your ultimate goal physically and financially with longevity, and how we can help support you in your journey. And that's my challenge to you. So in finishing off, I want to say we've completed our series of the 4th episode of a longevity checkup. I'm excited to say, moving in, we haven't secured the dates for September, but we got a fantastic lineup. We've got Bronnie. We're going to be doing shining from the inside and out with longevity, being your best life. And so how she wakes up in the morning till when she goes to bed, all of the different things she does from shining inside and out. And as you guys know, she's just been unbelievably committed to her daily Bronnie tips in Bronnie's world. So I thought she'd be perfect on this, on shining from the inside out. I'm excited that we are going to have our garden goddess, Cheryl Stivens, on gardening with longevity and the minerals, and which is really going to be a fantastic topic. And then we have Forrest on the tips on the #1 organ, our largest organ of our body, and that is the skin. And he's got the best testimony on skin health. And so he's going to be sharing on that. And then Gracie. Gracie is how being brave and stepping outside of your comfort zone and implementing the longevity Dr. Wallach message into her business. And so we got 4 people committed, and we're really excited about that. So we're just going to secure the dates. I think, Gracie, we've already secured I think it's the 22nd of September, but we'll have some more dates for everybody. Other than that, I'm officially on holidays now till the 4th. Being the 4th be with you, and we'll have Doc Wallach in his 52nd weekend with Doc Wallach, Doc Down Under. So we look forward to seeing you guys all on that call. Have a good night.
Have the most amazing time off in Cairns.
Yeah, you
Yes,
have a
well,
good time.
I'm currently in Airlie Beach, Airlie Beach for the next few nights, and working my way up. So
More
Yes,
power
I
to you.
noticed you told us all to go home and think about this, and you're the only one who's not home.
sorry, I didn't hear what you
Yeah.
said.
I said, I noticed you told us all to go home and think about what we've learned tonight and our business, but you're the only one who's not home. We're all home.
We're all home.
Everyone else is confined to barracks.
I'm still getting used to doing Zooms. Never mind.
Have a wonderful time, Dracy.
Have a
We'll
good
see you
time.
on the other side.
Enjoy.
Happy holidays.
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Nice